Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Foundations in AI. Yay! I am Aniakin.
And I'm Ava. We are thrilled you're here for episode 2 of our series, folks, where we are going to bring you concepts you need to know for the AWS Machine Learning Engineer certification. No experience required.
Exactly. Just come with your curiosity, come with your passion. Today, our focus is on data collection and ingestion. Let's dive straight in.
Yes, so in our previous episode, by the way, if you haven't checked it out, make sure to do so and subscribe, folks. In that episode, we said data is collected. About gathering data from various sources. And a good follow-up conversation might be around how exactly this data is collected, Aniakan.
Absolutely, Ava. We can divide data collection into two main buckets, manual and automated. For manual methods, think surveys and expert interviews, and perhaps manually capturing wildlife images.
Nice. Yeah, manual methods are sometimes needed to get specific insights or opinions. For example, you can use those wildlife images as data for a model to identify species for conservation research. However, as cloud professionals, we know that manual methods do not scale very well.
Yes, I see you're nudging us to look at the value of automated data collection methods like capturing logs from servers or applications, or consuming data streams from APIs,
Or maybe
um,
automating the capture of wildlife images by putting we can put
nice.
camera traps with motion sensors out in the field, and that is called sensor based data collection.
Love it. That's exactly right. So, yeah, sensor data is exploding these days, and automated data collection really sets the stage for efficient data ingestion, right? And the next step is bringing that collected data into your storage and processing layers. For instance, you might ingest server logs using AWS CloudWatch, or stream wildlife images into storage and processing services such as Amazon Data Firehose.
Absolutely. Now, once we have the data, we need to get it ready or in the right format for our chosen machine learning algorithm.
Yes, and I love how you put that, Ava, because different machine learning models might have different expectations about what the data looks like, what the data that it is given looks like. So, for example, supervised machine learning algorithms like XGBoost, which is available as one of Amazon's SageMaker's built-in algorithms, expects to receive labeled data.
Aha. So if you want to train a model to recognize, for example, spam email, you'd give it a lot of emails, some of which are spam and others which are not spam. And if you're using the supervised machine learning model, such as XGBoost that you just mentioned, then each of the example emails has to be labeled spam or not spam, right, Aniakan?
That's exactly right.
So how do we get labeled data?
Well, you can download a data set with data that contains labeled data already, or you can generate your own labeled data sets.
Okay, but that sounds perhaps a little tedious to generate your own labeled data set.
Yeah, it can be, absolutely. However, the good news is AWS offers SageMaker Ground Truth to help with data labeling.
Oh, I thought ground truth was just for automated labeling.
Hmm. Actually, Ground Truth supports both automated and manual labeling. It can use machine learning to automate the process or provide support for human labelers to do the work.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
Who are
so
those human? Who are those human labelers? I was going to ask. Do we hire people for that?
yes, great question. AWS offers three options, right? We can talk about there's Amazon, what do you call it? Mechanical Turk.
Turk.
Yeah, how could I forget that name? I love that name.
Cool
Amazon
name.
Mechanical Turk. Yeah, it's a where you can get a large global workforce. I think at the last count, it was over 500,000 workforce
Wow.
workforce that you can bring in and apply to label your data. The other option, in addition to Amazon Mechanical Turk, the other one is third-party vendors. So there are third-party vendors out there that you can bring in, professional labeling companies that are vetted by AWS. And then the third option is your private labeling teams, right? So you have an internal team or some sort of a trusted contractors that you can bring in to work on your labeling jobs.
That sounds very interesting. Can you give us an example, Anyakan?
Yeah, so this is showing on the screen is the Amazon SageMaker, and one of the features of SageMaker is ground truth, as you can see here. So you can go into SageMaker, you can uh, uh, create a labeling job, and and then go through that process. I did want to show something. Let's see. Was thinking about this. Let me see if I can show this. And I wanted to see if we can take a look at Mechanical Turk because I think that's actually pretty cool. And SageMaker actually also integrates with Mechanical Turk.
Very
All
interesting.
right.
Yes, cool name and cool service.
Yes. So I'm logged onto this site. I think it's requester.mturk.amazon.com. And when you go there, so this is Mechanical Turk. You can assign projects. You can assign projects to your labelers. So, for example, I can go in and say image classification under the vision type of project, and I can look at this and say, okay, this is what your labelers would be doing. This is a bird, and then move
Wow.
on. And you can maybe something like bounding box, right? So your labelers would be doing this for you. They would say, okay, this is a bird, and then create a bounding box around it. So depending on which machine learning algorithm you want to use, you can you can bring in human labelers to label your images so that you can pass those images, pass that data to, in this case, a supervised learning algorithm such as XGBoost.
Well, this is so interesting to see, Anyakan, and it looks like it's super intuitive. It keeps humans in the loop, and I imagine this is especially important when the data is nuanced or tricky, right? Then you need the human eye to be able to label it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so thank you for showing us this. And folks, here is also a certification exam tip for this section. Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth is going to support manual, semi-supervised, and automated labeling. For manual labeling, know that there you can use this Mechanical Turk, third-party vendors, or your own private workforce. And look out for questions comparing manual versus automated workflows, or maybe scenario where data privacy is important. This is when you're going to want to choose private workforce.
That's exactly right. You don't want, if you have sensitive data, you don't want just anybody seeing them. And also, don't forget the exam. The exam might have a question that tests your ability to match the right AWS service to the labeling needs.
Yeah, great. So once collected and labeled, data needs to be gotten somehow into our systems, right, Anyakan?
Exactly. And that brings us to streaming versus batch ingestion.
Okay.
Streaming versus batch ingestion. So, right, Ava?
Yeah, so streaming ingestion, let's start here. That means that the data comes in real time. It streams in real time, right, Anyakan?
Absolutely, that's exactly right. So think fraud detection or real-time recommendation, data that needs to be processed immediately. And we have tools like Amazon Data Firehose or Apache Kafka or Apache Flink. These can be used to handle that kind of data.
Great. So what about batch ingestion?
Mm. Yeah, batch ingestion. This is like a scheduled upload. You want to upload data periodically, maybe weekly or daily. And then this is perfect for historical analysis or reporting.
All right, great. So, which AWS tools are best suited for the batch ingestion?
Great question. We can bring in tools like Glue. Like Glue is an ETL service, extract, transform, and load. Bring in Glue. What else? Data pipeline is another one. Data pipeline used to create workflows. Even Lambda. Keep in mind some of the limitations of Lambda.
Yeah, like for example, it has a time limit of 15 minutes. And by the way, we're going to see a glue demo coming up in a few minutes as well. So, yeah. So,
Very
speaking of
cool.
data, what are the data formats? Because formats matter too, right, Onyeka?
Big time, big time. Your data format affects efficiency and how your machine learning workflow operates.
So why don't we quickly run through some of these common formats? Let's see, what do we have? We have CSV, comma separated value. This is a simple human readable format. We have JSON. It offers flexibility and you can work with nested data with it. We have Parquet and Orc, and those are optimized for analytics. There is also Avro, which is compact with built-in schema. This is good for streaming scenarios. And then there is Record IO, and that's a binary format that SageMaker loves.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it too.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and summarize these concepts one more time because they're very important for the exam. Again, CSV, easy to use, however, not ideal for complex nested data. JSON is going to support nested and flexible structures. Parquet and Orc, they're going to help enhance the format for analytics workloads. Avro is going to be useful for schema evolution scenario. In other words, when your data schema is going to change over time. And Record.io is optimal for AWS SageMaker workflows.
Yeah, very cool. Keep these in mind, folks. These are great tips for the exam. All right. So, Ava, what are the options for storing all of the data that we're now collecting? What are the options for storing all of this data for our machine learning projects?
So this is another, crucially important topic. Storage options are crucially important. They impact the accessibility, speed, and the cost of training a machine learning model. And AWS offers tons of options, like for example, Amazon S3 for scalable object storage, EFS for shared file system, FSX for enterprise grade needs. What else?
Yeah, and yeah, I almost forgot. There's EBS, right?
All right.
Yeah, EBS for high speed EC2 storage. We have RDS, Relational Database Service, for relational databases. There's DynamoDB for NoSQL databases.
Exactly. So make sure to match your storage choice, folks, with your data needs.
All right, let us quickly, let me show this on the screen. Yeah, let's quickly review the AWS tools by use case. We have for data storage, we have, as we just talked about, we have simple storage service S3 or an EBS, an Elastic File System, and FSX. There's DynamoDB and RDS. We also have options for streaming and ingestion of the data, right? We talked about generally Kinesis, but we focused on one particular one, the data firehose and Kafka and Flink. There are tools for preparing the data, whether it's ETL or data preparation tools. Glue, that's as we'll see soon. Data Wrangler, we saw that in the last episode. And also you can query the data and aggregate the data. Athena is another great tool, and it is one that you will need to focus on and know about for the exam, and Redshift. And then we can visualize the data using Amazon QuickSight. And feature management, we really didn't talk much about that. However, that's also another important part of machine learning training, to manage your features. And there is there's the SageMaker Feature Store service that handles that beautifully as well. All right, Ava, you know what time it is. It's demo time,
It's
right?
demo time. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the demo, folks. And you're going to see Glue and Athena, the service, the other important service that Anieka mentioned. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Okay, so what do we have here? So in this demo, what I'm going to show you is going to be the following. I have uploaded a CSV file. This is this comma separated value file to an S3 bucket. And from here, because it's stored in this bucket, I'm going to be able to work with it with Glue and with Athena as well. And let me show you how this is going to be used in Glue. So here I am starting in the Glue console. And again, just remember there is a CSV file with customer data that was uploaded. What I have created here is I have created a Glue crawler. And what the crawler does is it crawls the CSV file and then infers its schema from it. As a result of running the crawler, now I have here from this CSV file a database that was created. And the database has a table with a schema that reflects, it reflects the schema of the CSV file. So with this in place now, I can go over to Athena. And Athena is a tool that allows you to query directly in S3. So we're going to issue, this is an example of a SQL statement against this CSV file, because now the schema and the database has been added by Glue to the data catalog. So you can see here I have this database called demo, and it inferred the schema. Here is my table, and basically all the columns from the column names from the CSV, they are now columns in the table. Great. And because of all this in place, I'm able now to simply run a simple SQL statement. And if you're not familiar, this statement is going to select, I'm telling it to select all the columns from the table, but just give me back only the first 5. Actually, the CSV is much longer, much larger. So I'll go ahead and run this again. And let's take a look here. And as you can see, it returned back all the columns and the first 5 rows of data. And this is mock data, but this is what it did here. So now you have seen Glue crawler and how it infers the schema and how it can be used from the Athena service to query directly a CSV file stored in S3. Hope you enjoyed this demo. Anything to add here, Anieka, before we shift gears?
I just love, this is what it's all about. This is what working on AWS is all about. Knowing what services to employ, integrating those services, making those services work together to produce a result. So this is another great demo. Thank you for sharing, Ava.
My pleasure, absolutely.
All right. So to wrap up, Ava, let's talk about what are the key points that our viewers should remember.
So so we went over a lot of information here, folks. Maybe some of the most important ones are going to be, first, understand the types and methods of data collection and labeling. Know tools like SageMaker Ground Truth. Secondly, how data is ingested. Remember, there is streaming versus batch ingestion. And so they're going to be the corresponding services, Kinesis for streaming and then Glue for batch ingestion.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to make sure I show this. Yeah, don't forget, we talk about data formats like JSON or Parquet, know about their strengths and limitations. And also, we also talk about storage solutions, right? We talked about the different things, the different storage solutions from S3 to EBS to EFS to even the database solutions. Know all of that and know when to bring in when your data requires those things.
Absolutely. So perfect summary there, Anieka. Thank you for that. And thanks everyone for joining us today.
Very cool. So yes, if you haven't subscribed yet, there's no time like the present. Please do so to keep learning.
See you in the next episode. Thanks for joining us, everyone.